You have no idea how close we are to empty shelves. While you're scrolling through food delivery apps and casually adding organic apples to your cart, America's farmers are silently drowning in debt, drought, and despair. The U.S. farm crisis isn't just a rural problem, it's a global red alert. Behind every perfectly stocked aisle is a crumbling system, one that feeds not just America, but the world. What happens when the world's largest agricultural powerhouse starts to collapse? What happens when crops rot, livestock vanish, and the people who grow our food walk away from their land? From climate chaos to supply chain breakdowns, we are one bad season away from a full-blown food emergency. This isn't just a crisis, it's the kind of wake-up call we ignore at our own risk. The question is, will we hear it in time? The alarming decline of American farms. In the last few years, tens of thousands of farms across the United States have disappeared, literally wiped off the map. What was once the heartbeat of rural America is now becoming a ghost town of empty barns, abandoned tractors, and overgrown fields. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the number of farms in the country has been steadily declining for decades. But something changed in 2023 and 2024. These 2 years have seen an unprecedented collapse in the agricultural sector, one that is more rapid and more devastating than anything in recent memory. The pressure is coming from every direction. Input costs like fertilizer, fuel, seeds, machinery, and maintenance have surged beyond what many small-scale farmers can afford. Profit margins, already tight, have shrunk to the point where survival isn't just difficult, it's nearly impossible. The people who once fed America, who woke up at dawn to tend to crops and livestock, are now being forced to make a heartbreaking choice. Either sell their land to massive agribusiness corporations or walk away with nothing at all. Family farms, those multi-generational legacies built on hard work and sacrifice, are vanishing before our eyes. These were more than just pieces of land. They were symbols of independence, pride, and tradition. Now they're being absorbed into sprawling industrial operations that treat food like a commodity, not a craft. The rural economy, once supported by local producers, is collapsing alongside these family farms. But perhaps even more alarming is the human factor, the generational break in the cycle. The average age of an American farmer is now over 58, and there's a troubling lack of young people stepping up to take over. Why would they? The next generation is staring down a future filled with backbreaking labor, financial instability, climate volatility, and a mountain of debt. Many are choosing instead to leave their family farms behind and seek stability in cities or entirely different careers. So the question we must now confront is chilling. What happens when the hands that have fed this nation for centuries finally put down their tools for good? When the wisdom passed down through generations about soil, seasons, and survival is lost to silence. This isn't just a rural issue. It's a national crisis in slow motion. And unless something changes soon, we may wake up one day to find our food supply no longer in our hands, but in the grip of corporations or foreign interests with no ties to our land or our people. 2, how this ties into the global food emergency. America isn't suffering in isolation. From drought-ravaged Africa to war-torn grain fields in Ukraine, global agriculture is under siege. Climate change has intensified the frequency and severity of natural disasters, from massive floods in Pakistan to prolonged droughts in the American Midwest and East Africa. These disruptions aren't just local. They send shockwaves through the global food market. The war in Ukraine, a major wheat and fertilizer exporter, has pushed food prices higher across continents. Meanwhile, developing countries that rely on U.S. grain and soy exports are finding themselves priced out or left with limited supplies. It's a domino effect. When American farms fail, it's not just local grocery stores that suffer, it's the entire world. 3, corporate monopolies and the death of small farms. Another layer to this growing crisis lies in the unchecked power of corporate monopolies. Today, just 4 companies control more than 80% of the entire U.S. beef market. That's not just a statistic, it's a stranglehold. And the same dangerous trend has taken root across other critical sectors of agriculture, from grains and poultry to even the very seeds needed to grow crops. In a system that once celebrated independence and free enterprise, American farmers now find themselves trapped in an economic vice. Independent farmers, many of whom have worked the same land for generations, are increasingly being funneled into rigid, one-sided contracts. These agreements often strip them of control, tying them to multinational agribusinesses that reap the profits while farmers shoulder all the risk. They can't set their own prices. They can't negotiate fairly. They're often locked into purchasing seeds, equipment, and chemicals from the same conglomerates that dictate what they'll earn. If anything at all, it's a modern-day form of serfdom, masked by spreadsheets and supply chains. And when disaster strikes, as it so often does in this volatile era, it's the small, independent farmers who are hit the hardest. Whether it's a devastating tornado, flash flood, prolonged drought, or an unexpected market collapse, these events are often fatal to family farms already operating on razor-thin margins. Crop insurance is limited, aid is slow, and government protections have steadily eroded. Meanwhile, the corporate giants weather the storm with bailouts, legal buffers, and global diversification. These aren't just numbers on a report, they're real people. Families with histories rooted deep in the soil. Legacies built on hard labor and passed down through generations are now vanishing. One foreclosure, one auction, one forced sale at a time. Each loss represents more than land. It's a piece of rural America being erased. And who's standing in line to pick up the pieces? The same corporate entities that helped create the crisis in the first place. They swoop in and buy distressed properties at bargain prices, expanding their holdings, consolidating their power, and deepening their grip on the food supply chain. This isn't just economic, this is systemic. A transformation of America's farming landscape into a world where fewer and fewer hands control more and more of what we eat. The future of American agriculture is being written right now. And unless we address these monopolies head on, we risk losing the very soul of our food system forever. Rising food prices and the struggle to feed America. Have you noticed your grocery bill going up? It's not your imagination. Food inflation has hit double digits in many U.S. cities. Basic staples, eggs, milk, flour, even rice, have skyrocketed in price. The USDA warns that food insecurity in the U.S. is growing, even among working families. What makes this particularly disturbing is that it's happening in one of the most agriculturally productive nations in the world. America has the resources to feed itself and millions globally, but the system that manages those resources is collapsing under the weight of corruption, mismanagement, and climate pressure. The farm crisis is no longer a rural issue. It's sitting on your dinner table. 5. What's being done, and is it enough? The U.S. government has tried to respond. Farm subsidies, crop insurance programs, and emergency drought assistance have been issued. But many argue that these are just temporary band-aids on a system that needs structural change. Farmers need better support, not just in finances, but in innovation, sustainability, and ownership. Meanwhile, communities across the country are calling for a return to local food systems, urban farming, farm-to-table programs, and co-ops that reduce reliance on global supply chains. Some believe this is the future, smaller, decentralized agriculture focused on resilience and community. But is that enough to feed a growing population in the middle of climate and geopolitical chaos? The U.S. farm crisis is no longer just a rural tragedy, it's a global alarm bell. If America, with its technology and resources, is watching its farms fall, what hope is there for less fortunate nations? This isn't just about farmers, it's about all of us. Our food, our health, and our future are at stake. If this video opened your eyes, hit that like button, subscribe for more in-depth reports, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. What do you think needs to change? Until next time, stay informed, stay safe, and never take your next meal for granted.